You're watching the Juice Consumer Direct podcast. I'm Carson Poppenger, and today on our episode, we're going to be talking about the emergence of AI and contact center strategy. It's a really hot issue. There's some challenges with it and some things as it's a new technology. It's emerging. We're going to talk about that today. We have a special guest, Connor Hansen's here from our team. He's actually our Senior Director of Operations, oversees our Orem Center and a bunch of teams and projects that we run there. Welcome, Connor.
Thanks. Happy to be here.
And we got Jacob Thorpe here with us as well, and excited to talk about this. It's a hot issue. We see stuff on it every day. We're working on it ourselves, and we're excited to just discuss it. So
yeah, it's moving fast. It's moving fast. Even in the last year. I mean, we met every year. Really, the end of the year, we meet to plan for the next year. And one of the things that we had talked about was the emergence of AI and how we wanted to utilize AI. And AI kind of has, I think people are still trying to wrap their minds a little bit around what sort of functions it can accomplish for you in a business. But it is moving so quickly. The different models that have been developed are adapting and growing and becoming more and more proficient. And people are starting to recognize an opportunity to more efficiently contact their leads. Efficiency is, I guess, a term that probably needs to be defined either in a way that's cheaper or in a way that is potentially more effective than what they're doing internally. And they're trying to leverage AI technologies to utilize that. So basically you have an algorithm that's dialing leads and that is speaking to your leads as if it was a human. And the truth is the communication of those models is relatively similar to a human, but there's a lot of nuance around that technology that a lot of companies are failing to take into consideration. So yeah, a couple things that I think we want to talk about today are, one, like the effectiveness of using AI technology, two, the compliance of using AI technology, and three, the limitations of using AI technology in the contact strategy. So maybe the first thing that we can talk about is just that the risks and the compliance issues that we run into with AI dialing methods.
Yeah, I think a lot has come up recently as they've started to grow. And we were just talking the other day where we were saying there's thousands of voice AI agents now being sold to everyone and everybody wants to use them. But those companies don't really have the responsibility of making sure it's compliant with their leads that they're trying to sell or call out to their current customers. There's a lot of rulings with the FCC and TCPA laws that they have to still continue to follow, even though they're using this AI agent, which is in a sense a robocaller. It's not a human being, so they have certain rules and regulations they're going to have to follow.
One of the things that I think is really interesting in 2024, voice AI agents were kind of pulled into the robocaller definition, which has a lot of legal implications from a consent perspective. So on your disclosures, on the opt-in pages for the different leads, it's essential that you have basically permission and a paper trail that shows you have permission to dial these leads with an auto dial system or a robocall. And if you don't have those things, it's probably not safe to dial through a voice AI agent.
Yeah, and going back to what Connor mentioned, that is something that stood out to me this year, especially as I see so many of these technologies it's like a land grab right now, essentially, of sorts, where people are like, hey, let's develop an AI agent platform and get it out there and start marketing it. And there's new ones. I see new ones every day. And
it's the semaglutide of consumer direct.
It is. And they're most of these platforms I've seen don't have very strong use case and client experiences. They'll have maybe small companies they've deployed it with. And I think that's where the danger is of what Jacob talked about, where, I think the bigger clients that we work with and companies, they understand some of the risks and challenges there from a compliance standpoint. The small businesses, probably not so much. And they think, oh, this is great. I don't need to hire employees anymore. It's hard for me to hire employees to do this. And I'm a real estate agent, or I'm running my small business or whatever. Let's use this AI agent platform to do all the calling for us. And, really we know that compliance and consent is like a huge piece of this. And you've got to have that buttoned up. And those platforms, sorry to say, they're probably not going to protect you when it comes to the compliance aspect. They're saying, hey, here's the platform, we provide it. What you do with it is up to you, and we're not responsible. And, that kind of puts you in a dangerous position. You have to understand what you're doing when it comes to that. So let's talk about that. What do we do in compliance when it comes to the consent? What are some of the things that we know about best practices that you have to make sure are buttoned up from a TCPA and compliance standpoint? Jacob, what do you think?
Yeah, I was recently on a podcast or a webinar with Active Prospect and then Ethan Ewing from ProPair. And one of the things that came up on that panel was like, how do you ensure that if you're utilizing AI, whether it's generative or predictive, that it's compliant and that you're protected? Because there's risk. And oftentimes, all of these different kind of land grab, pop-up voice AI agents are built on very similar models.
Similar backbone and technology.
Exactly. Similar to those dialers that would just pop up built off of like Twilio. Mm-hmm. Right. And so they're using very similar models, but not all of them are protecting the data in a way that's compliant. So like Squeeze, for instance, we're SOC 2 certified. That is, just an extremely, extremely high level of data security, of conforming to extremely difficult security protocol to ensure that our clients' data is protected. If I were a partner and I were concerned about my data security, I would not work with a partner that did not have at least a SOC 2 certification.
Well, these platforms, they're providing a software for financial services users, for instance.
Yep.
And SOC 2 is a security certification for financial services industries for those that are handling financial customer data.
Right.
So you really need to make sure that the platform would be SOC 2 certified for sure.
Right. And you need to know that all of these voice calls that are happening, are they being retained? Are they being transcribed? Are they being used to train a model? Are they being used to improve the effectiveness of the voice agent? If those things are true, you need to get that cleared with your legal team. Obviously, we're not lawyers, but I do know the conversations that we're having with our partners about these sorts of things. And your data is probably your number one asset and your number one risk when you're operating in the consumer financial space. Connor, what have you seen?
Yeah, you have to look at the type of customer you're calling, whether or not you have express written consent, or if it's an existing business relationship you already have, and dialing those in accordance as well and make sure you have your legal opt-in of what type of call can be made out to your customer that you want to reach out to, whether it's new or a current one that you have. And
There were changes this year where we had almost had the single consent regulations go through in January, and that was squashed. And but you still have the original precedent, which requires you to have disclosures on your opt-ins where you have, the customer understands they're checking a box and they're submitting and agreeing to be contacted with an auto dialer, SMS, all of the things that you've had in there before in your consent language. But you really need to have in there as well that you're consenting to, be called by an artificial agent voice, however that gets put in there, with the language, that really needs to be added in there as well. Because if you're going to call with an AI agent using AI voice, the customer should have consented to that before you're calling. And I think a lot of people don't understand that and are going to probably try to blast out a bunch of calls with an AI voice.
Yeah.
And which is going to probably end up putting you in court at some point or another. You're going to have consumers that are going to say, hey, I never consented to be called with an AI and you called me with an AI. Therefore, I can now come after you. And no company wants that kind of.
Yeah, and you're going to find the serial litigators that are going to be all over this moving forward.
Oh yeah.
Where they're going to fill out inquiries everywhere and just hope they get called by an AI without opting in. And
Right.
It's going to become rampant, I'm sure.
Well, and there's a couple pieces of that. One, a lot of this is yet to be litigated.
Yep.
And you don't want to be doing something in like
In a gray area.
yeah, in a gray area before it's litigated, and then all of a sudden you're at risk. And then
Something where you're probably going to be chased after.
Yeah.
But there's no telling like what could happen, or yeah, it's a dangerous place to be playing when there's potentially tens of thousands of dollars of fines,
right, or more.
or
Yeah, more,
that you
I'm
could
sure.
be dealing with. Yeah.
Well, and then the other piece is most of these AI voice agent dialing tools are dialing strictly on power and predictive. They're not usually dialing on preview or one-to-one because they are an automated dialing system. And so you need to ensure outside of just the AI consent that you have consent to use in ATDS when you're engaging with whichever lead set that you're using. Now, internally, we have an AI outbound agent that we use, but the use case for it is limited. There's a space for it, and there's a spot where it works. Like, we don't use it on any of our existing business relationship where we're dialing one-to-one. Like, that's just a complete no-go. But on some of our higher volume campaigns where there is consent, where we're trying to be a little bit more efficient, it makes sense. And there's obviously consent for that.
Yeah.
I think a big part, stepping out of the legal phases for it is consumer sentiment. And because ultimately the whole idea of calling out to people is because you want people to consume your product or your service, and how they feel and what they feel is the most important thing. They're not going to buy if they aren't happy with the process. And with AI and how it is, it might be, I'm sure one day it's going to come and it's going to be the norm and everyone's going to get used to it, and they're going to be like, it is what it is, whatever. That might happen in years and years to come. But even we've seen a lot of companies in the past go fully digital, where you can't get to somebody on the phone, and it causes a lot of friction. And I think this is going to be still part of that branch of it's going to cause a lot of friction. They just want to talk to a person at some point in time.
Yeah, for 20 years, I think companies have been trying to figure out a way to push everyone into, like a knowledge base. Look at the frequently asked questions. We don't want to talk to you. Don't call us. And
Happened to me this morning.
yeah, and like
Literally this morning.
you're like looking for a phone number on their site, and they've like buried it or they've taken it away completely. And you go through like a chat bot or something like that, and you're just like, or you finally get that number and you call in and you're like, you're just telling the system, the IVR, you're using like an IVR, which I think consumers generally have hated. Now, I don't think consumers like IVRs at all. Yeah. You have to sit, listen to every option. So eventually this could become much, much better than like an IVR, where you can interact with a voice agent,
like from an inbound perspective.
Yeah, exactly. But consumers have been going through 20 years of frustration with IVRs, and just saying, I want to speak with an agent, and then finally after like 10 requests, you get looped to an agent, and then the agent's like in Dominican Republic or something.
Yeah. And there's already that friction on the inbound side.
Right.
You don't want it on the outbound side as well. So that's all they relate to your company is like, I never talked to an actual person to get anything resolved, whether or not they're trying to sell me or whether or not they're trying to service. I think is a big thing. At Squeeze, we're like, one thing we provide is the white glove service. And what we're passionate about is how your customers feel the whole experience is for them. And that's why we're leaders in sales experience. And so AI is a factor that can be plugged in, but I don't think we'll ever take away a true human being calling somebody and understanding maybe their frustrations or why they might not want to buy right now, and kind of going over that and not confronting, but just understanding that situation and overcoming it and letting them know the benefits that they could actually have and why it's a good thing for them, and then getting them to a sales team who's then ready to pitch them. I think that's it's something that can't be overlooked. And when thinking about the AI is rebuttals and how people are going to be already upset that maybe you're calling them and they've gotten a bunch of calls that day. It's just another factor that's going to be on top of it that's not necessarily in your favor.
Right. Well, just this last month, we have, we know a company, they're a large digital lender, and they built a AI voice agent that they were using to outbound all of their leads. And from what I heard from other people in the industry, they were very, very aggressive with how they were dialing.
Yeah.
I mean, upwards of 50 dials per lead potentially. And after a few months of testing this, they came to us and they said, hey, like, this isn't working. We need to send these leads to you, and we need to send them to you after we've attempted this cadence for a couple days. And, that 5x our volume immediately. But basically what they found is, while there's a place for that digital or that kind of automated experience, that human touch is essential to the sales experience. Even though it might not be cheaper, it's more effective.
It's part of your brand. It's like part of the consumer brand experience. It's, the consumers are interacting with whoever, whatever system or people you're putting on the phone, and that's an extension of your brand, and you want to make sure that it's, on brand basically. And so, let's talk a little bit about, we don't discount the opportunities with AI voice, and we've built inbound AI voice platforms to handle inbound calls and schedule appointments. We're building and deploying an outbound platform as well that we're going to be using in the future. And, we recognize there's great opportunities with this, but we've also seen there's a lot of challenges with the technology as well. But what are some things that we're seeing, and how are we going to, use our experience as the leaders in sales experience to perfect that AI voice agent? And maybe you could give your thoughts on that first, Jacob, and then we'll go to Connor.
Yeah, well, I'll give you one example of how we've used that to improve the sales experience. Our operating hours, like we'll work from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Mountain Time. We make a lot of calls on a daily basis, a lot of calls. And on a lot of those calls, we are branding on behalf of our partners. So some of them are utilizing their phone numbers, we're utilizing their call branding because we're operating as a contractor for them. So they are, these leads that we're calling out to, they see a missed call from this brand, and then they call into that when they get home from work at 9 p.m. and there's no one there to talk to them. And we recognized that that was a big gap. So we built these AI off-hour agents to basically say, hey, this is, I can't remember what the name of the AI agent is, but
Mary.
This is Mary, an AI agent with Lender A. We're outside of our operating hours, but we'd love to schedule some time to talk with you. What time could we call you tomorrow? And we've actually built an integration with that AI inbound agent to schedule calls within our CRM. So the next day, a call will fire at the time that appointment was set. That AI agent is also trained to answer questions about the brand, to be compliant, to follow the necessary regulations in that call.
Hours of operation.
Hours of op, dialing hours and things like that. I mean, we've tested it a lot.
You can try and derail it, and it always will come back to, scheduling the appointment and staying on the rails basically with the call.
Mm-hmm. And those appointments that we schedule the next day, those end up yielding 50% of those appointments end up yielding a sales opportunity for our partners. And that's been a massive win, both from a volume perspective, because those were leads that we would have never had a chance to convert. They would have just kind of fallen through the cracks. But it's also a massive win for our partners, because we're representing our partners and we're servicing their customer and communicating with their customer when they want to communicate. And that's a huge win. But it's recognizing that in your sales flow, there's little gaps that you can use technology to plug in, and there's little opportunities that if you can build a solution for it, it yields another 1% to 2%, which is massive when you kind of extrapolate
incremental lifts. Much better for the consumer. They can be they're calling back in when they're wanting to call and interacting when they want to, and then scheduling a call when they want to as well. And so, like you said, we might have called them back again the next day or in a few days and get a hold of them then, but we're working within, what they want to do, which is a better consumer experience.
And we also have a lot of experience making calls. Like you said, we make a lot of calls a day and a lot of calls a year, and we have a lot of calls to reference to train our AI agents and how call flows really work. Because everybody has an idea of how a call is going to go and they can script it, but it really, until you've done it thousands, millions of times, like to fine tune it, calls can go a lot of different ways. So being able to build out the AI agent for all those scenarios versus I've never made a phone call. I've made 10 phone calls for sales in my life, but I can build this AI agent and produce it and it can make calls and it can sound okay. Is very different than building that whole agent to understand every scenario that's going to come at them. And we're able to build that into it and direct it towards certain lead sources that we know from experience will perform better with this, because it might just be meat for the grinder because they're not crazy high quality, but you don't want to waste them either. Mm-hmm. You paid for leads and they're there. And so plugging it into those certain spots is a big necessity, and understanding that we have on that this is a good source, this is a bad source. Let's plug it in there. Contact rate's low, things like that play a huge factor into.
Well, Connor, you mentioned something that was interesting, and I know you do a lot of implementations with clients, new business that we get. And one thing that I recognized early on, and you've probably seen this quite a bit, is we'll start with a new partner and we'll talk about our scripting and what we're going to do on an outbound call with a live agent, and very, very rarely will someone give us a script that actually would be workable, and most of the time we have to throw it out or change it completely because
it just doesn't happen.
Like no one, there's a very low level of expertise of how to handle these short-term duration calls where you're trying to contact and prospect and qualify for a sales opportunity. And, so yeah, you can definitely try lots of different things, but there's definitely a science and an art to it. And what have you found with that?
Yeah, I found a lot of that. Right now when we're getting scripts in for prospective clients or anything like that, I'm finding a lot of ChatGPT scripts coming. I can tell. Yeah. I can tell almost immediately. I'm like, you didn't write this. You've not made this call. Like, that's you, ChatGPT.
If a robot were speaking to a human, this is what it would look like.
And it covers all the bases. Like, yes, I covered everything. And then what ultimately ends up happening is like they say, oh, write me a script that has these 20 things. Then it'll come out and it's this massive paragraph with 20 questions. And when you think about it internally,
we recently got a script that was 4 pages long.
Oh yeah. And
seriously.
And like you can tell that it's, there isn't it really kind of is, you say an art to writing scripts, but it's true. It's as you get into the nitty gritty of every lead source has a different script that's going to work. Every type of customer, every product, every vertical, fintech or mortgage or this. And
they all kind of have about the same framework, I would say, for what we do.
Well, it's all principle based. Yeah, so the scripts that we use are based off of sales psychology. It's not like we're just shooting in the dark here. Mm-hmm. We understand what works and how people are going to respond to certain things. The Science of Persuasion, it's a great book. It's a great resource if people want to look into it. We look to implement techniques that have been studied and that work, both in the way that we handle rejection, with the way that we handle objections and rebuttal, the way that once we engage with that customer on the phone, voice inflections, things like that make a real difference is what we're training our reps on when we bring them into
introducing maybe a little friction in certain point, removing friction in many places, but then maybe adding friction in certain spots to qualify. Right.
And let me just reiterate, our goal isn't to get as many over as possible. Our goal is to get as many over as possible that are an opportunity to convert. So it's a balance between removing friction and then adding necessary friction to optimize contact and conversion rates, while also making sure that close rates are where they need to be. And balancing those things and prioritizing those things is very different. And in fact, organizationally within our partners, their sales team and their marketing teams may have two very different ideas on what that script should look like. So getting buy-in from both organizations on that scripting is really important, and walking that kind of fine line of quality and quantity.
Yeah, sometimes like if you ask a sales agent that's taking these calls, what do you want the prospecting agent to say?
close the deal for me.
It's gonna be 20 questions. It's gonna be, this arduous script. It's like sort of the they have to kind of go through the gauntlet. If the customer makes it through the gauntlet, then they get to me. That's who I want to speak to and close. But the reality is that just because you ask all those questions and they get through that process, still doesn't mean you're going to close those at a higher rate than you would if you just have conversations and the sales agent can, understand the customer's pain and concerns, and then actually work a sales process. And I think we're going to talk about that in an upcoming episode as well.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, any other thoughts on what's going on with AI right now and out there?
Yeah, I would just say, like, kind of as a review, be really thorough when you're looking to select these partners and to select when you're using these AI the technologies within your sales funnel. Make sure you're protecting your data and make sure that it's compliant. Definitely get legal counsel. Obviously, we're not lawyers, but from our experience, those are the pitfalls. People go all in too early, or they're not measured enough with how they implement it, and they end up getting in over their skis a little bit. So make sure that you take the time to understand what you're implementing, how you're implementing it, and how it's going to impact your risk.
And then also paying attention to how it's going to impact your clients, your customers, your people that you need.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think there's going to, we've seen instances recently where, companies they've got a bunch of things that they really need to improve in that whole sales experience and sales process before they can really look to scaling things up. But before they get there and focus on those things, they're like, oh, let's pivot and just switch everything to AI voice agent. And I'm like, that's not going to go well. I already know that's not going to go well because, when you get that customer to the point where an AI voice agent would say, hey, let me get you sent over, and they get them sent over to a sales agent, everything's going to fall apart at that point anyway, because it's not working now. And so, there's a lot to really probably dial in before you take out the human from the front end, I would say, and be very careful about that before you do that at scale. And, if you're a small business, you've got to make sure that you're protected and careful in the, how you're using this, because it does have a little bit of a robocall feel to it. And consumers it's all going to come down to, like, are they willing to interact with an AI voice agent? Are they willing to do that? Or are they going to think this feels like a robocall and I'm being robocalled right now? Yeah. And so, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, this has been the juice.
This is a wrap. We're going to wrap this up and close it out. Thanks for being here, Connor, with us.
Of course.
Pleasure to have you on for the first time. We'll probably have you on more future episodes as well.
That means you made the cut.
You made the cut.
Big day for Big C.
Yeah.
And we didn't even talk about golf or anything in this episode.
That's where I truly shine. So yeah.
Yeah.
Connor is our go-to expert on all things golf and equipment. So he knows all the latest.
I don't buy anything without talking to him.
Yeah. Shafts, clubs,
you name it.
He studies it. He's a practitioner.
Yes, a scientist.
Well, thanks so much. You've been watching the Juice Consumer Direct podcast. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe.
If you have questions, send them in. We'd love to get to them.
Thanks so much.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. Yeah.